Hi guys, welcome to another Divi theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, in our last video we created a pop-up little button here. If I click on it, it pops up the latest news story and we can close out of it just like that. And somebody had a question on that. They actually wanted to pop up a blurb module rather than an actual news story. So we created this today, pop-up blurb. Click on it. And it pops up a little blurb module just like that. And you can use this on any module that you want. Really easy to do. We can use the existing code that we used for this regular pop-up, but we have to modify it just a little bit. Really easy to do, and I'll provide all the code for you. So let's get started. I'm going to enable the Visual Builder. While that's enabling, if anybody didn't see the last video, I'll take you through adding the code to your site. So I originally got this code from this link, and I'll put this link down below the video, opening Divi modules in a lightbox. And if we look about halfway down the page, we've got some CSS. Starts with body up there and ends with a curly bracket down there. You want to copy all of that. Anybody that's got this code from our last video, you need to skip over this bit. You've already got this. So I'm going to copy that, Control C. I'm going to go to my dashboard. I'm going to go down to Divi. Now there's two places you can do this. You can do it in Appearance and Customize in the additional CSS panel. Or you can go down to Divi, hit the General tab, roll on down, and you can use the Custom CSS panel here and just paste that code in there. If there's something already in there, you can just scoot it down, put your cursor at the top there, scoot it down a couple, put your cursor back at the top and paste that new code in there. Control V to paste. There it is, it's pasted that in there for us. I like to give my code a little title, that way that anybody that edits it after you, it's a bit of a courtesy, plus it makes things a lot easier to find also. So we put that CSS code in there. We just need to hit the little green Save Changes button there until you get the check mark. There we go, fantastic. We're good to go with the CSS. Okay, now if we go back to this page, roll down just a little bit further, we've got some JavaScript. And it starts from the opening script tag there to closing script tag on the bottom. Select that, Control C to copy again. We'll go back to our page. This time we're going to go to the top of the page. We're going to go over to the Integration tab. Add the code to the head of your blog. If you've got something in there, you can just scoot it down like we did with the other stuff. Put your cursor to the left of it, hit the return key, and we'll paste that new script on top here. Control V to paste. And there it is. We've got our new script in there. ETLB closed. We need to go up to the top, save our changes. Now all we actually need to do is to make a pop-up with this is to add a couple of classes. If I roll back up here, the actual pop-up that we want to pop up needs to have a class of ELB content, and depending on how many we've got on the page, it can be -1, -2, -3. Once we build that and put it in there, it'll be hidden on the front end. And to actually pop it up, anything that we want to pop it up with, all we need to do is give it the class of ETLB button 1. And it doesn't have to be a button. You can pop it up from another module by giving it that class if you want to. Or I should say ETLB button. And then depending on how many buttons you want, -1, -2, -3, etc. And we'll demonstrate this as we go along. Great, so we've got all our code where we need it. Let's go back to our page here. I'll refresh, just make sure that lightbox is still going to work. And we'll roll on down, make sure this lightbox still works, the latest news. There we go. Great. Well, let's enable the Visual Builder and we'll create a pop-up. And let's roll on down. We'll delete that button and we'll also delete this blurb and we'll start from scratch. Well, let's add a new module here. The first thing we're going to put in is a button to click this up with. Like I say, it doesn't have to be a button. Just give it that class name. You can pop things up with anything you want. There's my button over there. And this is going to be pop-up blurb, wasn't it? Like I say, you can use any module you like for this. They were just asking for a blurb, but you can pop up anything you like. So there it is over there, it says pop up blurb. I'm not going to put a link in there at all. I'm going to go over to design. I just want to pop that button in the middle. Now, we've got to tell it to pop up a pop-up. So as I was saying earlier, to do that, we need to give it a class of ETL button and a number on the end there. So I'm going to copy that, go back to the web page. I've already got ETLB button 1 on my top button there. So for this button, let's go to the advanced CSS IDs and classes. I'm going to make this, say, number 2. ETLB button 2. That way it won't get confused with the one above. Great. Well, let's create some content now that we actually want to pop up. Let's add a new module. Like I say, somebody was asking for a blurb module, so I'm going to grab a blurb module. Let's just say pop up blurb. I'll leave everything else just the way it is. Oh, I'm going to pop a little icon in there. So I'm going to switch the icons on for argument. Let's just use that one. Get it done real quick. Okay, design wise, I want all my text to be white, so I'm going to go over to design, down to text. I want it to be centered as well, so I'm going to put it in the center. I'm going to flip it from dark to light. There we go, that's fine. You can do title and body text separately and do different fonts and everything like that if you want to. Okay, well, there's a little blurb. Let's give it a background so we can see it a little bit more. Back to content tab, that's always where you'll find background. I'm going to make mine blue. That's fine. As you can see, it's stretching the whole width of the page there, which is, when it pops up, I really only want it to be about 500-600 pixels wide, but that's fine. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to take the opacity down a bit, so when it's popped up, you can see a bit of the site behind it, maybe down to about 75-80%. Obviously, do what works for you. All it's done at the moment is darkened it down because it's showing that black background through there a little bit. Great. Well, let's give it a bit more space and make it the size and shape that we actually want it. So I'm going to go over to design. I'm going to go down to spacing. Let's give it a bit of padding top and bottom. As I'm going to give it a fixed width, I probably don't need any left and right, but I'm going to give it 50 pixels, say, top. And I'm going to do the same on the bottom by hitting the chain. That's fine. I'm going to roll up. I'm going to go to sizing now. Now, width-wise, I really only want this to have width of perhaps, it's giving it 550 up there in the content. That'll work for me. Let's give it 550. Let's put percent in, so I'm going to get rid of the percent and put px for pixels in there. Now that's great. It's made it 550 pixels wide. Actually, let's make it 600. That way the content's got a little bit of space there, which is fine. And as it's going to be a pop-up, I kind of want it to be in the middle, and I also going to give it a bit of border so it stands out over the top of anything that's behind. So I'm going to select do all 4 sides at once. I'm going to make mine say 2 or 3 pixels. You won't see it's black on black at the moment. Let's try 2. Make it white. I think that's going to work. Now, to make this disappear and pop up, we need to give it also a class name. If we go back to this page, roll up a little bit, we have to give it ETLB content and the number. Control C to copy. We'll go back to the page. Over to advanced CSS IDs and classes. I'm going to put it in the class name there. And we gave that button 2, ETLB button 2. So to make that button pop up this content, we need to give it the same button on same number on the end there. So that's got a 2, this has got a 2, that's got a 1, and the pop-up news item has got a 1, so they don't get confused with each other. So there we have it. If we save this now, we should be able to pop this up, but we're going to have a few problems, and you'll see that, and we'll have to modify the code a little bit. Let's just save this. We'll save the page changes. Let's exit the Visual Builder. We'll roll on down, and the first thing you're going to notice is that call to action is not actually there because we've given it that class name. It's now hidden. But if I click on the pop-up blurb, it should pop up. But we're going to have a few problems. There it is. That's great. It's popped up, but it's filling the whole of the page, and I really don't want that. I want it to be sort of blurb size, similar size as before, and also there's no way of closing it. The little X that we usually close it with is not there. So let's fix this, and the way we're going to do that is I'm going to edit the CSS code we copied from Elegant Themes to stop this being 100% tall or 100 viewable height, so it's normal height. And I'm also going to give this blurb module a max width, just not a width, a max width of 500 or whatever it was we gave it. So let's refresh this page. That pop-up should go away. I'm going to enable the Visual Builder, but I'm going to go back to my CSS code. We'll go back to our General tab, down to the bottom again to our custom CSS panel. There it is right there. And if we look at this CSS code, everything's okay there. We've got a min height of 100%. Now for my news pop-up, that shouldn't make any difference at all. It's going to take up as much space as it needs, which is fine by me. So I'm going to delete this min height 100%. And I'll put a link down below to all this modified code. I'm going to leave the width of 100%, and I'm going to change the width of our module itself there. The only reason I'm going to leave this is because it will affect our other pop-ups, whereas the height did not do that. So, okay, let's save this. We'll go back to our web page now, and I want to go down to our little module right there. I'm going to go in, I'm going to go to design again and sizing, and I'm going to change the actual width there from 600 to max width, so it can't get any larger than max width. So I'm going to cut that, Control X, and paste it in the max width down below. And let's try that now. Let's save our changes. We'll go down, save the page changes, exit the Visual Builder, and if we roll on down, let's try that pop-up blurb now. Great, well it's popped up, it's the size that we want, but we want it to be in the middle, probably not buffered against the top. Let's bring it down perhaps by 100 pixels or so, so it's somewhere around here. So that's a very easy fix. Back into our CSS code. So at the top, it's got it set to 0 pixels. I'm going to make that 100 pixels, so there's a gap at the top there. I also want it to be in the middle, so I'm going to say left, colon, 50%, but make sure I put a semicolon on there. That's going to push it all the way to 50%, so its left-hand corner will be in the middle. To make sure that it scoots back to the middle, I'm going to use a bit of transform translate to bring it back by half of its width, which is really easy to do. Let's drop down, I'm going to say transform, colon, translate, means move basically. Right at the end there we've got some round brackets. Inside I'm going to translate it by negative 50%, basically half of its width. Put a little semicolon on the end, and that should fix those little problems there. Let's save our changes. Go back to our web page now. We'll refresh. Now let's roll down. Pop-up blurb. Great. Now it's in the middle. It's right where we want it. You could bring it down a little bit more if you wanted to. But again, we've got no actual way of getting rid of it. There's no little X there or anything like that. Let's roll back up to where we were. It will, if you click on the button, make it disappear again. But I'd like to have a little X in here so that when they clicked on it, it would be obvious. Before we do that though, let's get rid of this. Make sure that our other pop-up news feed thing is going to work. Yeah, it works absolutely fine. It's brought it down slightly, but that's fine. And it's got its little X there. Right, the easiest way to get this to pop up, either when they click on it or put a little X there, is to give it another class name. And we can do that very easily also. If we go back to our theme options here, and we go down to our code, if we roll down a bit, there's another class called ETLB close, which is the actual closing button. So if I take that class name without the dot, ETLB close right there, to enable our Visual Builder, and we roll on down. If I give our pop-up this particular class And it's okay to have more than one class. We've got the content there so we know which one to pop up. If I give it a space and then paste in that close, ETLB close class, what will happen now is when I click on this, it'll actually close. Now this is the easiest option. Save our changes and check this is going to work. Roll on down, pop up blurb, there it is. If I actually click on the blurb itself now, it's going to disappear. That's one little solution, but people being people, it would be nice to have something obvious on there. So I've written a little CSS code that we can add to the pseudo element before here that'll add a little X up here. Although the X doesn't function any differently than clicking on it, it just gives the idea that there's an X there that they can click on. And again, I've written this all for you, and I'll put a link to all this code down below. So I'm going to copy my code here. Let's enable the Visual Builder. So let's go down. And we'll go into the little pop-up blurb that we're using here. I'm going to go in there. Into the custom CSS. We've got before and after pseudo elements. You can use either. I'm going to put mine in the before. I'll paste it in there. And you can see we've got a little button with an X on it. It's not really a button, just a little colored background with an X on it. But it does give the impression that it's a close button. Now, before I demonstrate that, let's just show you how easy, once you've done this once, how easy it is to do it a second time or third time, however many you want. Let's add a new button. I'm going to just clone this one that we've got here. I'm going to go into my new button. And well, let's just use that contact or call to action module we've got down there to pop up this time. So let's say pop up CTA. I'm going to go over to the advanced CSS IDs and classes. And when we have button 2 on this one, the next one, let's change this to a 3 and we can pop up something else. We'll just save that. We'll save our changes. Great, well let's go down to the module. Just copy the class name from the one we used here to pop up this one, advanced CSS IDs and classes. And it's going to want both of these if we're going to want it to close, ETLB content 2 and ETLB close. I'm going to copy that, we can get out of here. And I'm going to give this the same class name up here, but I'm going to change that number on the end. So into the new module, over to advanced CSS IDs and classes. I'm going to paste those in there. I'm going to change that to a 3 also, so it knows which content it wants to pop up. And before we save our changes here, we also want that bit of code. So you can go into the module and copy that code. I've still got it in my clipboard. So while we're in here, I can go over, shut CSS ID in classes, go to custom CSS. Again, I'll put it in the before. We've got a little button on there. Make sure that it's the size width-wise that you really want it. So let's go down, design, sizing. That's fine. We've already got a max width, 550 on there, and you can put a max height if you want to of 400, but it's going to just take up the space that it needs there. Great. So we just need to save that now. Great. Well, let's save our page changes and exit the Visual Builder. We'll roll on down. There's our 3 buttons. Let's make sure they're all going to work. Latest news was the one we did the other day. Works fine. Pop-up blurb, we tried that just now. It's absolutely fine too. We've now got this little button. Well, it's not really a little button, but if you click on it, it's going to disappear. And let's make sure our other pop-up's going to work as well. There's our little call to action. Like I say, that's not really a button. If you click anywhere around here, that's going to disappear. Or you can click on the button itself to make it disappear. So there you have it, guys, and you can keep on adding whatever you need to, as many as you want, just increment that number, and you can do that with any module you wish. So there you go, guys. I hope that's answered that question. Pop-up blurb was the question. There it is. I'll put a link to all this code down below. Once you've done it once, it's really easy to recreate, as you can see there. So I hope you've enjoyed this today and found it useful. Don't forget, if you've got any questions, pop them below the video. I'll do my best to answer them for you, or make a little demo video like this one. Once again, this has been Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.